Hi, this is your Swapnil Bharti, and today we have with us once again Hilary Carter, SVP of Research at the Linux Foundation. Hilary, it's great to have you back on the show.
Thank you, Swap. It's great to be back.
It's my pleasure, and today we are going to talk about a new report about decentralization and AI research. First of all, just give us a brief overview of this report.
This report was the brainchild of one of our supporting members for Linux Foundation Research, Futurewei. We have done a number of studies with Futurewei. And decentralization and AI is really an extension of some of the thought leadership that organization has allowed us to create. Past examples being a report on fragmentation in open source, which we published, I think it was in early 2023. And they helped us organize the first open source congress in Geneva and a follow-up congress, which was held in Beijing. Both of those projects were sort of qualitative research forums discussing the open source opportunity and the need for global collaboration and greater interfoundational collaboration. Which all is at a really critical time. And as we come to terms with the role that AI is playing in society at large, it's time for taking stock. And so Futureway asked us to commissioned us to conduct a new research study on the significance of AI as it relates to open source opportunities, and this idea around building a better web, building a better internet, and some of the challenges that we have to overcome as we confront increasingly powerful AI algorithms, more widespread deployments of AI applications, and critically, the emergence of AI agents and what that all means. So that was the sort of big picture impetus for why this report was necessary. It was a qualitative effort where nearly 24 people were interviewed. We had folks from MIT, Lalana Kagal from MIT providing advisory consultation on this research. She has worked very closely with Sir Tim Berners-Lee and understands the new paradigm for the internet, which is a decentralized internet. And this idea of decentralization being critical as we confront AI acceleration in the global economy. So I'll pause there. That's probably a lot to digest, but that's kind of the background context of how this report really came about.
When we talk about AI, and there are a lot of discussions about what open source or decentralization mean for, because a lot of companies, they hold all the stakes when it comes to AI. So what is the concern here, or what is the driver behind this specific report?
That's very true, Swap. I think not only do we see centralization in AI and very few powerful players and innovators sort of dominating the AI space, at least at the outset, we have for decades now been grappling with the centralization of the web. And the fact of the matter is that very, very few organizations control the vast majority of our web applications. If we think about the ownership of LinkedIn by Microsoft, LinkedIn is essentially a social media application. Meta with the Facebook platform, with WhatsApp, now behind Threads, and Instagram. That is a huge percentage of our web user base, and that concentration and the big digital conglomerates, Google, and the amount of user data that is concentrated in the hands of a few companies has created algorithmic, I'll call it chaos, really, that we are in such defined echo chambers And then there's such a concentration of power by a few. So many of us have had very strange experiences where our data has been used to manipulate our decision making, our purchases, and now it comes down to our thoughts on things like democratic institutions or the institutions around governance. And the centralization of control over these algorithms is really something that communities are pushing back on. I think there's a widespread understanding that user data has needs to be restored to the owners of that data. We need to be the proprietors of our own data and get our data back so that we can make, so we have greater control over our online identity and more truth as it relates to the content that we're seeing. And so that opportunity to build a better internet, to build an internet where users really do control their data, is enabled by open source and the idea of decentralization, moving from single points of control to distributed, decentralized points of access and opportunity. And we really saw decentralization take hold with the emergence of Bitcoin and decentralized computing, where people from all over the world were sustaining a platform and a network, and that led to the creation of the Ethereum virtual machine, a new kind of decentralized operating system, allowing innovators to create applications on a decentralized network. So in the context of AI agents being trained on our personal data and more of our processes being driven by AI, it's more important today than ever before that we have some control over our privacy and the security of our personal data as inevitably we go about training AI agents to make our lives more efficient and productive.
Thank you. And also, if you look at the current political landscape without naming any conflicts there, it's even more important to kind of, I mean, just the way like external, is treated or be maintained by a neutral body, neutral, global collaboration. That's what we need even more today versus having a few players who control it, which will be very, very dangerous. Now, if I ask you beyond these political implications, who does this report really matter? Who is going to benefit? Of course, it is very good, of course, for Linux Foundation also to see the pulse of it. But why and to whom does it matter today?
It's a great question, Swap. I think there is a new paradigm emerging that is driven by both regulation in Europe and even in the United States, antitrust regulation, to really open the doors to innovation, to lower costs for everyday people, and to create a more competitive innovation landscape. That there is a great regulatory recognition that there is too much concentration of power, too much power and controls in the hands of too few. And that type of environment goes against the principles of fair and open markets. It creates tremendous opportunity for the little guy, for the innovator wanting to build functional, secure systems that add value and do so at a lower cost. And the exciting news is that open source is the pathway forward. That what we saw with DeepSeek proved that open source technologies are the building blocks to the truly competitive landscape in social applications, in financial applications, in identity, and even information applications, building a new and decentralized web. That is the new era of hope for global prosperity and a more democratized internet. So it's truly exciting. I'm seeing a shift in both thinking and a shift in innovation. Innovators from all corners of the world have these opportunities because of open source software, open hardware, open standards, and open data. And we're building sovereign AI systems. Whether those sovereign systems, to use a term from Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, whether those sovereign AI systems are existing at the national level, at the regional or provincial or state level, at the municipal level, or at the enterprise level, there's a new opportunity to build customized, unique solutions that are fit for purpose and fit for the use case.
Can you talk about some of the findings, or when it comes to decentralized computing, what are the protocols, what are the technologies that we are looking at, especially from the context of this report?
Yeah, so some of the technologies we explored are, I'm going to start with the solid protocol. This is a protocol that Sir Tim Berners-Lee is actively dedicating his time and energy toward, essentially putting users in control of their data. And it allows a kind of decoupling of user data from the applications that users are engaged with online, where user data is stored in pods. So I think watching out for the development and the growth of the solid protocol is going to be something that I'll be watching with great interest. I think others should take an interest in it as well. We saw Tim Berners-Lee removing himself from the World Wide Web Foundation, believing that the World Wide Web Foundation and the W3C were no longer compatible with his vision of a truly open and decentralized, democratized internet. And he believes that solid protocol is the way to manifest that, and so is dedicating his energy to that. So that's definitely something to watch. The report also focused on some communication technologies, social media technologies that are decentralized, protocols like ActivityPub, which is a protocol underpinning Mastodon and even Threads. The AT protocol, which underpins Blue Sky, which was a project, sort of an extension of Jack Dorsey's Twitter. And that's, that protocol is gaining some traction as more and more people depart Twitter for other platforms like Mastodon and Blue Sky and even Threads. But also not just the technologies, like Matrix as well was another one that we discussed in the report, really talking about decentralized communications. Some of the challenges around adoption and where we are in the maturity curve of these technologies, what we have to overcome as a community in order for decentralized communication protocols and applications to really flourish, requires overcoming some pretty important structural challenges, complexity, sometimes cost. It's confusing. Trying to get set up on Mastodon and choosing which server you're going to engage with is a complexity. If I were to explain Mastodon to certain demographics, I couldn't. And yet they have such ease of adopting other tools, like say Instagram is very accessible. So there's a long way to go with some of these new protocols. User experience is really important. Another challenge that even this ecosystem is experiencing is fragmentation. Ultimately, as human beings, we want to be where our friends are, and we want to be with our community online. So if part of our community is on Mastodon, and part of our community is on Blue Sky, and part of our community is on Threads, and part of our community is, on another network, that's challenging. And we're still not getting the same experience that we once were when, Twitter was at its sort of heyday of adoption, and, a lot of folks are on Facebook. I think LinkedIn as the centralized play is probably the most robust and evenly distributed demographically of all the social networks out there today. So the sort of first era of the internet and the decentralized era of the internet ironically suffer from some of the same problems around fragmentation. and reducing technological complexity. We also discuss technologies that we host at the Linux Foundation. We have an entire foundation, LF Decentralized Trust, that is a rebranding and an expansion of the Hyperledger project and Hyperledger Foundation to be more inclusive of all decentralized technologies, those that relate to accelerating digital identity and digital credentials, and the building out the digital asset ecosystem, stable coins and central bank digital currency, digital supply chains, every single possible application, improving sovereignty and provenance in supply chains. LFDT is a very important community to accelerating this vision of a truly democratic, decentralized web in the context of increasing use of AI and AI agents.
Who are the stakeholders? Are the lawmakers? As you mentioned in Europe, CRA is also big. Are the technologies, are the users, are the companies, are the open source communities? When we talk about decentralization and AI, who would you consider constituents and stakeholders?
In my years of being part of decentralized ecosystems, beginning with the blockchain ecosystem and knowing some of the folks involved in the emergence of Bitcoin and Ethereum, I believe that these are bottom-up ecosystems, and that the real stakeholders and the innovators are the developers who believe in individual sovereignty, who believe in liberty, who believe in personal freedoms, who believe in privacy, and have created a new paradigm, a new set of digital protocols that will create this ecosystem. And were it not for this distributed, decentralized group of developers, we would not have these opportunities before us. They are singularly responsible for creating the possibilities of a new world, a decentralized, shared internet, and an internet which gives us all the opportunity for data sovereignty and online privacy, the ability to transact privately, the ability to not be confounded by algorithms that are designed to manipulate us. So I see them as critical stakeholders. Without this group, there will be no decentralized internet. I do see an interesting role for regulators who've often had a heavy hand and often have had unintended consequences for innovation. While regulation is well intended, in many ways they're accelerating development in decentralized spaces for a couple of reasons. One, for free markets, and two, for digital sovereignty. I truly believe that the European Union is intent on building sovereign digital infrastructure. And that impetus came with regulation. I don't believe it came from the ground up, but because of the work of global developers building decentralized spaces, the vision of the European Union can come to fruition.
Hilary, thank you so much for joining me today and talk about this report. And as usual, I look forward to the next discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Swap. It's always a pleasure.